Welcome, critters! I'm Claire Jones, your devoted host of the Sacred Reading CR podcast, where we discuss and examine Critical Role episodes, plot lines, characters, and players through the lens of sacred reading practices. This particular episode is about Campaign 1, Episode 44, Part 1, and joining me today is Atlas.
Hello.
We are just commiserating over how tired we are, so this will be a fun one.
Yeah, sometimes those are a mess, sometimes they turn out the best.
Yeah,
So could go either way. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. Well, the icebreaker that I found is what is your favorite 80s movie?
I don't know if I can name a single 80s movie.
Really?
Yep.
Man, I grew up on 80s movies. Um,
I didn't I probably know 80s movies, but I don't know that they're from the 80s, so
mm,
have no idea.
mm. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a toss-up between mine. Like, my first thought was like The Breakfast Club, you know what I mean? And all of
Mm.
those John Hughes movies. Those were pretty good back in the 80s. There was a lot of good, like, horror movies back in the 80s, that kind of stuff. But the two top that I would watch every single time is Earth Girls Are Easy. Have you ever heard of that one?
Nope.
It's very, 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 very early career Jeff Goldblum and Jim Carrey.
Okay.
And they are essentially aliens who come to Earth and meet up with Gina Davis.
Okay.
And Gina Davis is a hairdresser in this very 80s hairdressing shop. And so they decide to shave and make over the aliens, and they turn into beautiful human men.
The 80s sure was a time.
Yeah, great. And then the other one is Valley Girl, which is early, early, early career Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
And it's very much like, angsty alternative teenage boy falls in love with a like cheerleader suburban blonde girl.
Of course.
They're just undervalued 80s movies, in my opinion. But I mean, The Breakfast Club is always a good call, but it does get a little depressing.
Yeah, I kind of know The Breakfast Club.
Oh
I've
man.
never watched the whole thing.
Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, St. Elmo's Fire, all of those, John Hughes, Molly Ringwald.
Nope, I got
All right.
nothing.
All right. What about 90s? Do you have any like 90s movies that you absolutely love?
One of my go-tos is like the original Jurassic Park. And
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of like the sequels,
Yeah.
but I love the original
Yeah.
because it's a fun movie without being insanely campy.
Yeah, it is. It is a very
Yeah.
fun movie. I mean, honestly, Jeff Goldblum can't really do wrong.
Fair enough.
He is one of
Yeah.
those older white men that I'm like, okay, you're
Makes sense.
I mean, when it comes to 90s movies, my favorite of all time is Empire Records, just because it is such a good movie, but I can go on for days. So, please join us as we embark on this exciting adventure in story analysis and self-reflection in order to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. As always, we love hearing your own insights and stories as well, so please comment, like, subscribe below. And ready? All right, let's dive in. As we open this podcast episode, Vox Machina has been in the process of gathering both allies and information in Vasselheim in their efforts to thwart the Chroma Conclave, a group of ancient dragons that have destroyed several major cities. The last episode wrapped up with them learning of two vestiges of divergence, which are powerful weapons that could help them in this fight. Grog tells the party that he thinks his uncle Kevdak has the Titanstone knuckles that Earthbreaker Groon mentioned, but he doesn't know where the Herd of Storms is now. He seems reluctant to pursue it. So they were also told that the Raven Queen leathers would be in the Marrowglade Lock, so they decide to go there first since it is close by to Vasselheim. Kima says that she wants to come with them, but also wants to take a day in Vasselheim arranging passage east. But the party assures her that they also have means of transport back to Taldore when that's necessary. They discuss the sequence of next steps, and Vex goes to a bookshop to try to research the lock and find possible underground temples or caverns near it. She finds a book about the Raven Queen for 30 gold, and for the first time ever, her bargaining skills fail her and she has to pay full price. The book, however, does contain information about Pervon Sul, a former champion of the Raven Queen who fell in the final conflict of the Divergence and was interred in a lost multi-leveled tomb to the west of Vasselheim in the direction of the lock. So they presume this is where they're trying to go. Zara gives Grog the moon hammer she made for him, and Grog enthusiastically tries it out by trying to hit first Scanlan, then Vax with it. Vax, who's seen what is coming, has backed away and stealthed into the shadows, but Scanlan uses his minor illusion to create a very poor simulacrum of the rogue. Grog swings at the illusion and is briefly convinced that he's killed Vax when the simulacrum disappears. They use Keyleth's Windwalk to transport Vox Machina, Zara, Kashaw, Kima, and Trinket to the lock within the Vesper Timberland. Landing on its edge, they see bits of stone and fallen walls about 30 feet out in the frozen lake, but there is no obvious entrance. So Vex knocks a hole in the ice and sticks her head underwater and can just see the part of a structure underwater. Percy, using his mask, can see a little bit more, and the structure seems to rest on the floor of the lake about 50 feet down. Vex and Vax try swimming out there in mist form, but discover that they still need to breathe air, and so they resurface. Zara polymorphs into a large alligator to swim down and finds two blocked off entrances, but also finds a clear area with no plant life in the floor of the lake. They set up camp and Vax starts rebraiding Vex's wet hair. Zara talks to Keyleth and Vex about the clear area, and they discuss whether it's a creature of some kind that maybe disturbs the area with its movements. Keyleth turns into a giant shark to check it out, but learns nothing further and returns. They settle down for the night since they are still wounded from the fight that they had with Earthbreaker Groon. And Vex makes sure that Trinket is between Cash and Keyleth at all times. The first night watch with Vex and Zara is slightly disturbed by a group of wandering owl bears, but they don't notice the party, so they do leave behind two feathers from which Vex crafts two owl bear arrows. The next watch is Vax and Percy. Vax checks in with Percy on how he's doing and whether he thinks he's doing better. He Percy says that he's starting to imagine a better version of himself, and Vax tells him that he has a family with his friends if he wants it. Percy says that they're all broken people, but together far greater than the sum of their parts. He also encourages Vax to go after the things that he wants. They each apologize for the mistakes that they've made, and Percy says that he thinks there's a destiny for them all. Kima says that she's trying to sleep, but the whole party wakes up as they hear the distant screech of a patrolling rock, and they realize that it's the same one that they had helped previously, much earlier in the campaign. Scanlan and Cash take the last watch, and Scanlan tells Cash that he's noticed the way that Cash has been flirting with Vax, but he doesn't think that Vax is interested. Cash plays along and says that yes, indeed, he is very much in touch with his feelings. There's a lot of back and forth, and Percy starts rhyming in his sleep while Scanlan works on a song. The next morning they wake. Vax complains about his hot ears, and Grog pees in the ice hole. Cash goes to pee next to Grog, but is intimidated by his size and quickly walks away. The group discusses strategies, then Keyleth casts control water to move the lock's water out of the way. They all run to the sunken tomb and begin searching for an entrance in the mud and the muck. Vax gets stuck trying to pull her out. Grog refuses to help them, and Trinket can't get enough traction, so Scanlan casts Bigby's hand to pull them out and then uses the hand to move rocks until a stairway leading down is uncovered. They rush down it and use the hand to pile rocks at the entrance to hold back the water when Keyleth's spell ends. Water rushes in and it dribbles through the barrier, but it seems like the wall is holding for now, so Vax begins sneaking down the stairway. So, what do we think of this first half?
So this episode as a whole is one of my all-time favorites
Oh yeah?
because I think it's an almost perfect capsule episode of what D&D can be.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It just runs the whole gamut of everything, and a big
Yeah.
part of what contributes to that is this first half where it is a lot of levity and a little bit of serious, and it just kind of finds that right balance between shenanigans and actually getting stuff done. And this is a really tight hour and 40 minutes.
It
They get
is.
so much done. And especially in comparison to some of their other like slightly more directionless um episodes that they've had, especially um towards the end of arcs or the beginning of arcs, it's one where they actually manage to make decent plans and follow through with them, where they are concise with what they're doing and manage to make a lot of progress in a very short amount of time. And like this episode is well known for its second half, but the
Yes.
first half is what makes it such a good episode. You need that build up for the second half to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the second half is unexpected by everyone, including Matthew.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and we've been spending a lot of the episodes leading up to this kind of in chaos. Like, this is the post conclave attack chaos
Hmm.
that we've been muddying our way through and that they've been muddying their way through is like, how can they possibly make any dent on this group of massive ancient dragons who are seemingly working together, even though that makes no
Right.
logical sense? And they've been trying everything. Like, they went to the Clasp, they went to Vasselheim, and they've talked to a lot of different people in Vasselheim. They've got Alora, they've got Kima, they've got Kashaw, they've got Zara now. They've kind of got support from the Slayer's Take. They've kind of got
Eh,
support from the Platinum Dragon. They've kind of
uh,
got support from Earthbreaker Groom. But the sum of the parts, like Percy mentioned, gave them a direction to go in. And so after all of this chaos, it is a bit of like a refreshing breath to have like options at their disposal, not just like
yeah.
a single path to follow, because this is the first time since the dragon attack that they've had like actual options to pursue.
Yeah, but also not a huge range of options.
Yeah,
Like there's a couple good options,
yeah,
some very distinct paths for them to follow. And I think that's what they needed at this point
yeah,
because they've been floundering for a couple episodes, like we said, and as soon as they have a binary choice in front of them, do we
yeah,
go after the Knuckles or the Leathers? They instantly can make decisions, can make plans, and
yeah,
it helps so much with the flow of the story. And especially when you have eight people at the table, and not including Matt, you really need to boil it down to a simpler decision because if you have eight voices all wanting to go slightly different directions, nothing gets done. And so it's not just that they finally have some sort of direction to go in. Like that was all the buildup of meeting with everybody, and that's amazing. But it's also that Matt made the choice to make it a duality rather than a true open book at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they also need to go to Pyra. I mean, that's something that's also on their list right now.
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, having the contrasts between their options actually increases clarity. And, that makes me think of like, I think that applies to all of us at a certain, like when we believe that there's only one path available to us, we almost resent that path
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
because we have no feeling of choice or autonomy within that journey. But being presented with multiple options, even if, they are shitty options, does increase our chances of actually, following through.
Yeah. I think something that strikes me as interesting, especially, is they don't really talk about going to Pyra. It's more that it's seen as a foregone conclusion that they will.
Yeah.
Which I kind of love
Yeah.
in that nobody's fighting with the thing they know Keyleth needs to do. They've kind of come around to this realization that they're not going to solve the world's problems overnight. They
Yeah.
have time to do these other things. And finally coming to that realization helps with the table cohesion a little bit more and makes it so these slightly different side quests, for lack of a better term, aren't seen as a problem. They're just seen as another thing on the to-do list.
And I'm almost wondering if the reluctance, overarching reluctance of the Vasselheim people to engage with this crisis also helps create stability for them because at
Hmm.
least Vasselheim's not panicking.
Yeah, I think that does help. Like having some kind of steady force, no matter what it is or how slightly annoying it might be,
Yeah.
can really help you chill out when you're in panic mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, like, it almost makes me think of like parent relationships sometimes.
yeah.
Like, why aren't you freaking out with me? You need to validate my emotions. And then the parent is like, it's really not that serious. It's
Yeah.
really not that serious. Like, we've got this. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. And like it's a thing for friend groups too. Like
Yeah.
I'm in in one of my particularly good friend groups. I am the one they call when they just need somebody to be chill.
Mm.
And so I'm not there to like mother anybody. I'm just
Yeah.
there to be the like dry voice of reason. Um, and to some degree, I feel like Cash and Zara are that to this
Yeah.
group. Like it's a little bit Vasselheim, but it's also this like they have people who care but aren't panicking traveling with them. It's
Yeah.
Kima and Cash and Zara that are having this hugely calming effect on the
Yeah.
group as a whole.
Yeah.
So like yeah, Vasselheim very important, but also having that presence there consistently
Yeah.
is doing a whole lot of work for Vox Machina.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, even though Kishaw has his own doubts as to whether they actually belong in the group helping
Hmm.
them, I think Kishaw also has Zara as his directional arrow in all of
Yeah.
this, And so I think it just underlines the importance of having people in our lives that are directional arrows for us to help us get out of our own muddied doubt.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a couple times, they have elevated to a whole new level with this. And like I think Matt
Hmm.
intentionally with making it like a worldwide problem instead of just a
Yeah.
localized problem that they're dealing with. Like, I think the first step was dealing with Whitestone as like its own
Hmm.
autonomous township. Is it a city? Is it a township? I don't
I don't really understand the politics of Whitestone, but whatever.
know. Lordship. Mm. Um, but now they're on a global scale with
Mhm.
the dragons, and I think it has helped definitely, with Vasselheim, Kima, Kashaw, Zara to have a more distributed pressure too of that responsibility. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, so Vasselheim is more or less confident in their ability to stave off a potential multi-dragon attack. So that also reduces the pressure for us. Like, we don't need to save Vasselheim. We wish Vasselheim saved us, but
Yeah.
they'll at least save themselves. Um, and then also having Kashaw and Zara, I think also, I mean, even though Kashaw has doubts, he's taking it seriously.
Hmm.
And I think Kima is also taking it seriously. And so I think that also relieves the emotional weight of the pressure.
Yeah. And I think Cash especially has a particular effect because he has those doubts and he voices them.
Yeah.
Like he's not subtle about his questions, but none of them are about the validity of their
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah.
It's more about whether this is the right path for him and Zara specifically,
Yeah.
not whether they need to be involved.
Yeah.
And showing doubts that aren't directly related to the problem at hand, but more as like an individual approach to it is a good way to involve a character with questions without making it feel like it's questioning the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm honestly kind of impressed with how they chose to use their resources in this
Hmm.
first half too.
Yeah.
Like, I think that that was a consequence of the relief of pressure from the panic, from the chaos, from the doubts that have been going on. Is like, once you remove yourself from that emotionally reactive state, you can then start using, logic and strategy with clarity
Yeah.
more so than, muddied emotions. And like, particularly when it came to like Vex looking for books to research. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think that's happened yet in this campaign of like them seeking out.
Yeah, it's not a very Vox Machina approach.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm so thoroughly steeped in campaign two that for me, like, it's just a logical thing for them to go do research. But
Yeah.
when I was watching this episode, I was like, oh, this is really unusual for Vox Machina to do
Hmm.
this.
Well, and when you think about the party makeup, there's no reason for them to go do research. There is not a single character that would make sense for
Hmm.
the most part. Um, Vex is probably the closest, but it's not going to be her instinct. Um, but it's just like the backstories of these characters, the makeup of these characters, the personality of these characters is not lended to book research,
Yeah.
which is fine, but does complicate things when they don't know where to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also impressed too with the whole exchange between Kima and the group when it comes to the transportation question too.
Yes.
Because I think that Kima and her like desire to arrange passage affirms Vox Machina's resource wealth in being
Hmm.
able to provide passage. So it's almost like, oh yeah, that's fine. Wait, it's not a concern. We're actually good.
Yeah. And I think it also reminded them of how far they've come in a very short amount of time. It
Yeah.
hasn't been crazy long since they saw Kima,
Yeah.
but it's been long enough that they have grown a lot and in ways that she doesn't know.
And we also see Keyleth's Windwalk used successfully
Right?
for the first time.
Which is so exciting considering how much they've harped on the fact that it went so badly last
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. And so we're definitely seeing evidence of growth here, and I think that they are too.
Yeah. And I think both the characters have a chance to realize it and the players.
Yeah.
I think especially given their immersion in this story and how much time they spend on this story. It's a little hard to take a step back and realize how much has changed as a player. Um, Especially when you've got the entire internet telling you what you did wrong and what you like needed to do or should have
Yeah.
done or would have, should
Yeah.
have, could have. It's not helpful to recognizing that you actually have gotten better at playing this game and you do know what you're doing.
Isn't this the 1 year anniversary too? I think
Maybe?
I think they were talking about that in the pre-show like announcements and stuff because they didn't really celebrate it, which was also something that I noticed at the
Right.
beginning. They were like, "Oh yeah, it's our anniversary," and then they just kind of like glossed over it, and I was like, "Okay."
I now that you've mentioned it, I vaguely remember that, but I honestly didn't catch it.
Yeah, and I think there were like some comments in the chat about it as well, or at least
Mm,
referenced in those like little tweets that they share on the
yeah.
screen and stuff
I
like that.
can't read any of those because the text is too small, so I got nothing.
Yeah, and so I almost think that the cast needed this episode to realize that the 1 year anniversary is worth celebrating.
Fair enough.
So now they need to like retroactively celebrate their 1 year now that they're in the middle of the episode. And I think it also, I was also noticing this in the pre-show stuff, like Keyleth, Marisha. Marisha is also starting a new show as a producer on Geek and
Hmm.
Fantasy. That's one of the things that she announced on, the announcements portion. And I think that that is also a huge step for her and like her career. And so like we're seeing all of these like huge growth pieces of evidence of growth in both the characters, the players, the campaign, like all across the board, we're seeing it.
Yeah. It really is one of the huge strengths of this episode that gets overshadowed, but it's one that I think is worth celebrating in and of itself, of just seeing the growth. This is one of those episodes where it's very obvious, it's very forward, and it's if you're paying attention, there's a lot to notice, a lot to learn in a very short amount of time, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
Not that an hour and 40 minutes is short, but we're talking about Critical Role. So
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the announcement section for this particular episode was long because they just had a 2 week break too. And
Hmm.
so it also seemed like every single person in the cast had something to announce as well in
Or
terms
multiple
or
things.
multiple things of like things that they were doing in their careers or people that they wanted to like shout out or anything like that. And I think that
Yeah.
they are hitting their stride as cast members on this stream. The characters are hitting their stride and being able to deal with a worldwide conflict.
Yeah. It's so much fun to watch knowing what's coming.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
not necessarily what's coming in this episode, but what's coming for the cast, for the story as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, knowing where they go from here and that this is just the beginning is great, but having the opportunity to look back and see just how much progress they made is
I mean,
also, it's harder to do, but it's so important to do.
one of the announcements that Matt made too at the beginning was thanking everyone for showing up at their first international event too. They did something
Yeah.
in Ireland previous to this episode, and they even mentioned that people came from like Egypt to see them in Ireland for this
Hmm.
event, and how nice everyone was, and how great of an event it was, and so on and so forth. And I was like, see, you guys. You're actually accomplishing worldwide stuff in both worlds.
Look at the parallels.
We call that growth.
Yeah.
Are there any personal experiences that come into mind?
Yeah. So there was one that I started thinking about when I was watching this episode because they are in the middle of a crazy, world changing, potentially world ending situation.
Mm.
but they are still finding time for moments of levity and fun with friends and the ability to just relax and be themselves. Um, and it feels particularly relevant given
Yeah.
the state of our world.
Yeah.
Like, just because you do find time to relax, because you do find time to do something fun or to tease a friend or to, do something that isn't deal with the problem head on,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you're like not making progress. And so like I went to a concert last night,
Hmm.
which I have been doing more, but have also felt a little bit guilty of like
Hmm.
taking those times to really like disconnect and just go, listen to some music or hang out in, a show, something like that. And like I was thinking about it last night because I watched this episode yesterday and went to this concert. I was just thinking about that dichotomy of, there's a lot that the world is doing right now.
Yeah.
Most of it's not great,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that taking time to go do something I enjoy is a bad thing or to hang out with people that I enjoy is a bad thing. So meeting a friend at a concert is actually a good use of my time.
Yeah.
And so it was a kind of this reminder that, yeah, world changing things are happening. That doesn't mean you stop living, doesn't mean you stop doing the things you enjoy. And so taking that time was really important and actually has made me, you know, in a better position to deal with life, in spite of the fact
Absolutely.
that I am currently exhausted. Once I take a nap,
Yeah.
I'll be in a better position to deal with life.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking while you were going on because, like, all of this levity, all of these like personal interactions, table talk that they're doing in both last episode and this episode
Hmm.
supports their abilities to grapple with what's going on and navigate what's going on. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite phrases is like, joy is an act of resistance. Like,
Yep.
if they defeat your joy, then they win. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um,
Yeah, I've heard that floating around a couple times, and I think it's particularly important to remember right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like I kind of relate with the whole like, graduating to a global scale for
Yeah.
their efforts. I am also slowly on that route. I mean, not nearly as, you know, influential as Vox Machina is in the world of Exandria, but
Hmm.
there is a lot more global awareness and activity that I'm involved in these days. And there's a lot of pressure involved with that.
I believe
And
it.
there's also just a lot of opportunity at the same time. And so I'm also trying to navigate the whole like, okay, what am I actually responsible for in all of
Hmm.
this? What can I achieve in all of this based on the resources at my disposal? Um, so I definitely relate to that right now. And this month, we talked about this a little bit. This month has just been heavy for, I think, a lot of people in my
Yeah.
circles and everyone's circles. I don't know what it was about the month of August, but it was a lot for people, a lot for me too. But it seems like the people around me are being weighed down by the negative interpretations of what went on this month more so than
Mm.
I have been. Which, I don't know. Like, I'm not here to say, like, that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I've just been debating how to show other people in my life this evidence of growth in their own lives
Hmm.
as well. And being like, I don't want to invalidate what's going on emotionally for them, but I also just want to like highlight, can we like just show how well you did in this situation?
Yeah.
Even though on paper it sucked, you did well during the suck.
Yeah,
I think that that's worth also just acknowledging and celebrating in itself.
for sure. And when you have the space to actually think about, like, hey, that was a tough situation, but I did good, it feels good to think
Yeah.
about. And like, that's a hard thing to do. You have to be in the right headspace to do it, but
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah. 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 I think one of the biggest things that I'm helping some people with right now is the tendency towards overgeneralization when it comes to
Mm,
like this
hmm.
situation was bad. This situation was good. I never do the right thing. Da 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 da. Da. Like it's the
Yeah,
whole like overgeneralization thing. And I think Vox Machina has been able to get themselves out of that mindset, like we said, because of the extra people that have been added in.
yeah,
And I think that's a reminder for all of us to remember that we have people with different perspectives that we can bring into the mix to help equalize the emotional experiences that
yeah.
we're going through.
And coming into a situation with a different perspective is also a bit of a skill set.
Yes.
Like knowing which perspective to put forward is something you learn to do.
Yeah.
Um, so, it's something that people can pick up
Yeah.
and make use of.
Yeah. 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 I have a client right now whose overarching challenge is battling the overgeneralization language that she uses for herself. And so
Hmm.
every time I meet, I'm like, all right, challenge, overgeneralization, and she's like, you're right, you're right, you're right. But
Yeah.
it's a skill, it's a practice, it's something that's not going to change immediately overnight. And I think that that's an unrealistic expectation to think that it could.
Hmm.
And I'm not perfect at it either.
Nobody is.
I have my moments, but
Yeah.
I do seem to be a minority when it comes to my optimism these days.
Yeah.
But what do we want to do about it?
There was a line in Percy's little speech that kind of stuck with me about him looking for his better self, figuring out his better self.
Yeah.
Um, and so I kind of decided that like this is a hopeful part of the episode. So that's going to be what I take away from it is
Mhm.
something hopeful. And so like I am immensely proud of what progress I've made personally and professionally in the last year. I'm going to start looking for what is my better self? Like
Mhm.
what are those things that I can change to make myself and the world around me better? And so that's going to be my little introspective challenge to myself for this one. It's
I
just
love it.
figure out what my better self is and start
Yeah.
working towards that.
I love that. Yeah. I've been giving my better self names over the last 5 or so years as like a directional,
Hmm.
kind of thing. And so it used to be 24 karat Claire was
Nice.
the one that I was aiming towards a couple of years ago because I wanted to be like, I don't know, I guess acknowledge the inherent value of myself.
Hmm.
It ended up being like I turning into like I'm wearing gold-plated armor, and so I'm somewhat untouchable these days because
Hmm.
I've been able to create that armor for myself. But nowadays, it's honestly Joyful Claire. She's the
Yeah.
directional for me. Is like I'm so tired of having to be resilient and like grit through experiences.
Yeah.
What I'm focused on these days is enjoying these experiences, even if they suck on paper. I'm
Hmm.
determined to find something to enjoy about them and like lean into that more so than like, oh, I made it through.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather enjoy the process than enjoy the outcome because the process never ends.
Yeah. You're gonna spend a whole lot more time on the process
Yeah.
than the 30 seconds you get out of whatever finished product.
Yeah. I mean, like the outcome is a continually moving line, right?
Hmm.
So I'd rather enjoy getting to the moving line than waiting to be joyful at
Yeah.
a point that may or may not ever come. Um, and so I think what I'm doing these days is I think trusting in my communities, kind of like how Vox Machina has found some, this is going to sound funny, but sounds found faith in Vasselheim. And not how you would like traditionally think of faith,
Yeah.
but they at least maybe trust is a better word for that. They've been able to find like that stability that they can trust
Hmm.
in Vasselheim. And it's a practice for me these days to be like, okay, other people do have stability that I can also rely on.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to be the stable one for yourself at all times.
Yeah, I mean, like I have created stability for myself, but I don't have to be the only creator of stability in my
Yeah.
life. And that's my hyper independence talking.
Yeah. As a fellow hyper independent person, that's not something that comes naturally.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it's also this fine balance between like, relying on someone else's stability and like depending on it, I think is
Hmm.
also a very fine nuance between
Yeah.
the two. And so I think that that's also what I'm navigating at the moment is like I will use it if and when it's available, their stability, but I will not just like depend on it being there all the time either,
Yeah.
because I think that leans more into like codependence and dependency and all of those things.
Anything taken to extremes is bad. So somewhere in the middle is great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hyper independence, hyper dependence, it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
well, anything else want to add before we start wrapping up?
I don't think so. Looking forward to next time
Oh,
in a
I
weird
know.
way.
Next time's gonna be a trip and a half. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we'll get into that. I'm glad that you're here for your one of your favorite episodes.
Me too. I got really excited about this one.
Well, this is powerful stuff that we're talking about here. An audience, we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts and stories with us as well. We'd love to know how episodes like these have impacted you in your own lives. Special thanks to Alice for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Always happy to be here.
Next time, we'll be discussing Campaign 1, Episode 44, Part 2, and joining me will be Atlas, so I'm excited for that. If you're ever interested in coming on here and nerding out with me, please do let me know. I'm always happy to have more people on. In the meantime, please comment, like, subscribe below, follow us on Tumblr at SacredReadingCR for all the juicy updates. And until next time, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be free, and be the chaotic good you wish to see in the world. Take care, guys.
Bye.